Ah dear. Trials and tribulations of a fledgling YouTuber. Good evening everyone. It is 4 minutes past 9, do apologise, on Saturday the 5th of September 2020. The reason why I was laughing to myself when I started this is because I've just done a 2 or 3 minute monologue without pressing the Go Now button or the Go Live button. So I do apologise, I thought I was already streaming part of this already, so oh dear. One of those days. I had this all set up from about 8 o'clock thinking, yeah, this is cool, just take it easy, and I got to about 5 to 9, it's like, shit, I haven't got the webcam thing hooked up, the HD60. Ah dear. These things are sent to try us. So I've got the laptop on, so let's say a quick hello to some of you dudes that have been waiting in the chat. And I've refreshed the chat anyway, so I can't tell who's in there. Oh dear. No, it shows people from a certain point. So Private Hudson's in the chat. Pierre Plays YouTube, welcome back from your hiatus. Angry Doge's in the house. Who else we got? I better put this onto live. Is this actually working? Yes, it is. ClickTech Kev says I should donate £1 for every minute late to charity. Steve Darby says, whoops. Randall Lane says, hello, Mr. Mike. Hello, Mr. Lane. Omar Azam, oh, that's gone too quick, can't see. Alexa's in the house and says, Pierre Plays YouTube, been there, hope all is well. Yes, so do we. Ugly Bob says, I see your head isn't covered in bits of toilet paper. Not had a shave just before your stream. No, luckily I did it this morning when I got up. So yeah, the bonce is looking pretty darn good, even if I do say it myself. At least it hasn't got loads of cut marks and it looks like I've had a couple of rounds with Freddy Krueger. Hey ho. Element Gaming MC says, yo. Paul Bakewell says, hi. ClickTech Kev says, hi Kath. Hi. Ghost Adder says, hello, was eating tea. Ricardo says, ViewSonic will send me a brand new bigger monitor. My VA2261H-2 failed and they'll send me a new one. That awesome news. Okay, so that's out of the way. We said hello to most of you. If I've missed anyone out, I do apologise, but hello to everyone. Hopefully you're all feeling well, doing well under these COVID times, and depending where you are, I think things are seemingly, I might be completely wrong, but things are seemingly getting back a little bit to some form of normality. As most of you will probably already have noticed from the thumbnail for this video, today's live stream, I had to think about what it was then. Today's live stream is my idea for a really bargain busting £1,000 or roughly £1,000 build based around the new RTX 3070. And for those of you that have been living underneath a rock for the last week, Nvidia have announced and done a press release of the latest RTX cards, following on from the spectacular 20 series cards, which I'd imagine quite a lot of you have got because they've got 80% of the market share. So it's a pretty likely thing that some of you out there have already got these cards. Skystalker, for one, I know, is probably already crying into his cereals over his 2080 Ti, which cost loads of bucks a little while back, but it was worth every penny at the time. But unfortunately, our friends over at Nvidia have now released the new Ampere architecture, which is seemingly, on paper already, absolutely phenomenal. And to put it into perspective, the 2080 Ti, which was effectively the fastest mainstream graphics card on the planet, has now been eclipsed by Nvidia's humble, I would say lowly, 3070, which, if you look at the product stack, normally you've got your kind of Titan based cards, which is now the 3090. Dropping down one, you have like the 2080 or 3080 series, and then for the more mainstream or slightly more budget orientated people, you've got the 1070s, 2070s, and now the 3070. And the 3070 is being released, as far as we know, at least the Founders Editions on Nvidia's website, are going to be released for just a shade under 470 of your English pounds, which is pretty decent. Although, in the US of A, they are releasing for, I believe, $499, the magical under $500 mark. So with the kind of the conversion factor from dollars into pounds, us here in the UK still get shafted a little bit, which is unfortunate. But if you're in that same sort of boat yourselves, and maybe you're in another part of the world, let me know what are the approximate prices for the 3070 in your neck of the woods. I haven't had a great deal of research on it for different variations price-wise, so please do let us all know in the comments section what the prices are likely to be in your area. If you're not too sure, you can head on over to the GeForce website, which we'll take a quick look at now, which, if I can remember which keyboard it is, which key it is rather. Has that done it? No, it hasn't. Why did that not work? Oh, number pad 3. That's why. I am a dipshit. Okay, so there we go. GeForce's RTX 3070, the ultimate play. So the various models available in the 30 series, and the 3070 is pretty much where most of us are going to be looking. So as it says, ultimate play, the GeForce RTX 3070 is powered by Ampere, Nvidia's second generation RTX architecture, built and enhanced with ray tracing cores and tensor cores. New streaming multiprocessors, high-speed G6 memory, not the G6X memory, G6 memory. So a little bit of a step down from the 3080 and the 3090, but it gives you more than enough power to rip through the most demanding games. And starting price here in the United Kingdom is £469.00. That is for the Founders Edition, which you can sign up, be notified when it's actually available. Now, looking actually at the device itself, see, it's available from October. So everything in tonight's stream and also all the discussions are purely, well, speculation really, until it's actually, fiction is probably a more accurate term. So it is all fiction until we actually get one on our desk to see what it's like. But as you can see, you've got the new Nvidia Ampere architecture, second generation RT cores, 2 times the throughput, which is pretty phenomenal. Third generation tensor cores with up to 2 times throughput also, and a new SM 2 times floating point 32 throughput. So yeah, it all sounds good, and well, it kind of looks pretty sexy. Performance wise, as you can see from some of the chart here, compared with the RTX 3070, the RTX 2070, and the GTX 1070, that's the one that I'm more concerned about because I've got one of those. And yeah, control with RTX on, if you're playing that on a GTX 1070, you're getting, well, about 10 frames per second. Minecraft with RTX on, with the GTX 1070, maybe 2 or 3 frames per second. Borderlands does a little bit better, getting just to over that 30 frames per second, so console gaming territory. But with these new cards, look at these crazy frame rates. Over 100 frames per second with RTX on. Minecraft especially, that just blows my mind how much faster. Look at the difference between that and that. That is phenomenal. Obviously the 2070 was a big jump as regarding RTX, and regarding rasterization graphics, it doesn't include that, so we can't really get a good idea of that, but it should be much faster. But there we go. So with DLSS, another feature which is built in, you can increase the frame rates due to kind of AI super sampling, all that kind of cool stuff. You get your ray tracing, so you get these really ultra realistic looking graphics, and as you can see, that looks pretty vanilla. It still looks nice, but when you add on that filter or the RTX, it does bring it to life. It really does. Most of us, depending on what games you're playing, if you're playing first player games, or sorry, single player games even, that is where you're going to be looking at these kinds of things. In first person shooters, online gamers, esports, that kind of thing, the ray tracing isn't really going to be that appropriate because you're more concentrated on the fast action. But for single player games, maybe things like Far Cry, that kind of stuff, especially this kind of game, which is going to be included as part of the package. So you will get the new version of, oh god, I can't even remember what the game's called now. Watch Dogs, that's it, it's there in the corner. Watch Dogs Legion is coming free with the new 30 series cards, so that is that's pretty cool, and it is looking to be a fantastic looking game. Anyway, moving on. So yeah, blah blah blah. Nvidia Reflex, so that speeds up stuff as you'd expect it to. this is where I'm pretty interested in, your creative games. So you've got the new kind of Nvidia Studio platform, which adds features for green screen effects and your microphone sound equalizer, basically getting rid of all the noise in the background. Some really cool things are going on there, creative side of things. And for streamers, this is going to be absolutely fantastic because obviously you've got all the new enhancements, etc, etc. Specifications are, well, yeah, off the charts. Nvidia CUDA cores, nearly 6,000 CUDA cores, which is pretty insane. And there we have the pictures. And it does look, well, it just looks awesome. You would have thought they'd have made it into an S model number because you've got this kind of S shape, which is running around the outside edge there. So they could have almost called it the S edition, which would have been nice. But anyway, that's my personal opinion. As you can see, even the 3070 doesn't have quite the same cooling setup as the 3080, which has got the kind of inverted fans, one at the bottom, one on the top. But you have got the 12-pin power supply connector, which is, yeah, that is 12 pins. I had to double check then. So 12-pin power connector, you will get an adapter included in the box. So if you've got a traditional power supply, which pretty much everybody has, you can still use it. You haven't got to worry about too much about that. Just plug it straight in. But I think it looks like a very, very sexy looking card. Very nice. Do like the look of that. So anyway, that is the RTX 3070. Kath is asking a question.
Steve D says, I have a Gigabyte GTX 1070.
Yes.
G1 gaming with a ViewSonic XG27.
Is this related?
Yeah, should the upgrade to RTX 3070?
Yes, you should. Spend lots of money and definitely do an upgrade. Yeah, if you have got a 1070 at the moment, like I have actually got a 1070, if you're looking at upgrading, the 3070 is probably where you want to be looking. You could, if you want to, wait till the 3060 comes out to see what that's like, but realistically, I don't think that's going to be, well, it might be around about Christmas time or it might be in the new year. I think they're going to try and clear the inventory or at least clear the backlog of orders because I can see these things getting an absolute shit ton of orders. It is going to be out of stock pretty much everywhere. Fortunately, there are a lot of kind of third-party partners who will be developing these graphics cards in their own branding, so Gigabyte, Asus, MSI, etc, etc. Seen a few of those which have been already kind of posted around on various forums and groups, etc. And mostly they all look, well, pretty much over the top. Tons and tons of bling, tons of fans, tons of RGB. Now, I like RGB. You might be aware of that, but I actually really like the Founders Edition card. I think it looks really, really nice. Again, let us know in the comments what you think of it, but I personally think it actually looks extremely nice. See what people are saying about it. No, not really much there at the moment. Randall says, I like some of the AIB cards as well, by the way they look, yeah. It's going to be interesting in the next couple of weeks, couple of months to see all these cards come out and start flooding the market for YouTube channels, possibly not myself because we don't really get involved too much with this kind of upper tier gaming and upper tier cards. It is a little bit out of the budget of most normal people. Even the 3070 at £500 or $500, however you look at it, for me still is a lot of money. It is a lot of money. And bearing in mind that we've done quite a lot of build guides before, which have been £300 guides, £500 guides, £700 guides, to spend £500 or dollars on an individual component still is pretty mind-blowing. But it's all relative. If you consider that the 2080 Ti was, what, £1,300 in the UK at some point, to get a card which actually beats it in the majority of titles for just £500, it's kind of giving you that momentum to try and maybe better your card and get something which is really special for what seems to be a good price. But we don't know yet what AMD are going to bring to the table, and the RDNA 2 potentially could be an upset for us all. So if you are considering a RTX card, especially the 3070, 3080, which is going to be released in about, what's it today? 12 days time. So they will be available in 12 days time to purchase here in the UK, apparently. Do you spend your money now? Do you wait, see what AMD bring to the table? It is going to be a very close call. Some people have hinted that maybe Nvidia have done this specifically to counteract what they know AMD to be releasing. It wouldn't be the first time they've done it, and it certainly won't be the last. So do you hang on? Do you wait? We do know that RTX, or ray tracing, is going to be supported in the latest consoles, Xbox and PlayStation, and those graphics chips are provided by RDNA 2 from AMD. So we know they've got the technology, we know they've got the power, but can they produce something in a PC format which is affordable and that will compete? Who knows? But it's going to be interesting finding out. Kath, did you have a question?
Somebody asked how the cooling would be. I can't remember.
How will the cooling be? That is a very good question actually. How will the cooling be on these new RTX cards? Frankly, because of the amount of power they're using, I think the 3070 is using something like 275 watts, the 3080 is like 320, and the 3090 is some way up towards the 400 mark. They're using a lot of wattage. That is a lot of energy to be using. It's also a lot of heat to dissipate. Who knows? They could be very, very warm running cards. Nvidia traditionally have been known recently, especially recently from the Pascal cards upwards, of having cards which run considerably cooler than AMD counterparts, and that has been a thing for quite a while. Although AMD have improved their processes, and if it's anything like what they've done with Ryzen, especially the second gen Ryzen, if they can replicate that on the RDNA 2, then they could have something really special. And it's very, very likely, in fact, because consoles aren't going to be using an absolute ton of power. We know this because console manufacturers will not put more than like a 300 watt power supply in a console. It just wouldn't happen. They just cannot do it. It won't be, it's not affordable. They can't fit it in there, size, heat, etc. Longevity, warranties, it's not going to happen. So whatever they're putting into the Xbox and the PlayStation has to be relatively low wattage. So if they can turn that into a PC component by adding a bit more wattage and a few more fans, all that kind of stuff, potentially AMD are onto a real winner. So yeah, temperature wise, we don't know, but it's going to be nice to find out. Okay, so who wants to see my build guide?
Why don't you see questions first?
All right, let's have a look at some questions, if there is anything.
If there's any questions.
Skystalker says the RTX cards are power hogs, 320 watts plus. Yeah, scary. Captain White says the RTX 3070, 220 watts. So 220 watts isn't that bad. It could have been a lot worse. I thought it was a little bit higher than that, but maybe I am mistaken. The 3080 is 350 watts. So yeah, it's that is a lot of energy. If you think, if you had a 350 watt light bulb on, like those PIR lights that we used to all have in our gardens for lighting up things, they used to have 100 watt halogen bulbs, and you'd get your face near it and you'd like burn off your retinas and stuff. That is a lot of energy. So if you're using 350 watts, that's like having 4 of those surrounding you. That's a lot of energy. Captain White says AMD are going to win the efficiency game this time. I think that's very, very likely. I genuinely do. Ricardo says AMD must take advantage of low to mid cards. Not everyone has $500 for an RTX 3070. That is a very, very good point. And for, I would say, the majority of people, myself included, and probably a lot of you out there, the most you're probably likely to spend on a graphics card is kind of around about the £300 mark. Maybe some of you slightly more. Most of you possibly considerably less. Judging by the amount of comments and questions we get on various videos, a lot of you are at the kind of RX 570, 580, the kind of 1650 Super, 1660 Ti, 1660 Supers, those kind of price points. So anywhere from like 150 to 250 pounds seems to be that sweet spot, as pretty much it always has been. Anyway, maybe we'll win the lottery and we'll all buy expensive cards, but it's unlikely.
Private Hudson says a 3080 and a windmill for the electricity.
yeah, I think we're all going to end up with solar panels on the roof, windmills in the garden, and maybe wave electricity generating machines in our ponds just to try and keep all this stuff going. It is pretty scary. Yes, lots and lots of energy. And for some people, it's going to mean a new power supply. Also, you've probably noticed, if you're into your PC stuff, you'd have found it very hard to not notice people selling off the older cards, the 2080 Ti's, 2080s, even the 1080s to some extent, they have all dropped like a stone price-wise. So if you're a current owner of a 2080 Ti or 2080, do you sell it? Do you get rid of it quickly, ready to get your next card, or just wait, hold on, see what happens? I know a lot of people have been just ditching those cards like crazy. Some of our Discord members have done so already, and we've seen 2080s going for around about the £200 mark, which is realistically 2070 and 1070, maybe 1660 super money. It is, yeah. Now 1080 is still an amazing card, no matter how you look at it. Skystalker says, I will have to sell part of my body to afford this. Well, just sell something you don't use. Alexa says, now people won't think I'm crazy for buying an 850 watt PSU. We'll still think you're crazy, but an 850 watt PSU might be well in order. Angry Doe says, Discord gang. Oh yes. Sorry, just looking through the comments. Okay, so let's take a quick look at my build guide. Now, before I go into this, I will put a slight caveat in there. I have gone slightly over the £1,000 mark, to be brutally honest. Not a lot, but I've made a few tweaks to the list that I started with originally in order to make it a little bit more balanced, especially for possible upgrades at a later date. Power supply I've upgraded slightly, the NVMe drive I've upgraded slightly from a 512 to a 1TB, and the difference was about £10, so it actually made a lot of sense to do that, especially if you're on one of those kind of relatively fixed budgets. If you're on a £1,000 budget, it's quite often you can squeeze maybe £10 or £20 extra here or there, so I've taken that into consideration. I did actually get this idea, well, I was kind of thinking about it anyway. It actually says on the board up there, on CAF's magic board, of things to film a blank 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 dollar PC build. So I figured I'd do that. This was essentially inspired more so by Bitwit. If you've not heard of Bitwit, Bitwit is Lyle and Kyle have got their own channel on YouTube, and they're a very popular YouTube channel, and they do lots of crazy stuff and also build guides, etc, etc. But I watched it today, and actually their $1,000 build guide I was watching, and it was almost like he'd been possessed by the verge, and there were some of the decisions that were made and I was like, oh, visibly cringing. Kath even said, like, what's up? What are you watching? And it was a little bit cringeworthy. Unfortunately, bless him, Bitwit is a lovely individual, and I would very much like to meet him and have a drink with him one day, and possibly a few cheeky smokes. But unfortunately, I don't think he gets his feet wet in the budget end of the market very often, so he wasn't quite as knowledgeable on some of the lower end stuff as I'd hoped he would be. So I figured I would go ahead and do it myself and try and do it not better, but differently. That's the kind way of putting it. So, Ugly Bob says, I was proper cringing at Carl's video. Nice, yeah. He is exceptionally funny. I do love him to bits.
Jay's 2 cents wasn't too impressed either.
Yeah, actually, yeah, Jay's 2 cents was another person who kind of hit on it a little bit and kind of didn't outright diss Kyle, but he said he was kind of a little bit concerned about the build that he did and for upgradability and bottlenecking, etc. Now, bottlenecking is a thing, but it isn't the be all and end all. Essentially, you can have a bottleneck of about 25 to 30% in one game, but have no bottleneck in another game. So it depends on the games you're playing. If you're playing specifically CSGO and you're building a PC specifically for that, then it is mostly CPU bound to some extent, so you do have to take that into consideration. Generally, I would say probably about 80% of modern games are mostly GPU bound, so the choice of your processor isn't as important. Now, obviously, RTX cards do use a lot of CPU resources as well to kind of generate what they're doing. There's lots of data moving around at very high speed, so you do have to have some form of balance in the system, but you don't necessarily have to have an absolute ninja processor in order to keep up with a graphics card. We've seen before where people have done benchmarks with crazy graphics cards with kind of 3000G processors. Yes, there's been a bottleneck, but it's still functional, and you've also got the ability to upgrade. I would personally rather spend a little bit less on a processor and spend more on a graphics card, especially for gaming, because obviously that is going to be the kind of the target and what you're looking at. The graphics card is going to do most of that stuff. Anyway, I'm waffling. Let's get into this build guide. Yeah, me waffling? Who'd have thunk it? So if you want to check out this build guide as well, if you've got maybe another tab open in your window, I will put the list. Well, actually, I'll see if Kath can do that. Can you paste the link? Oh, it's in the video description actually. Yeah, you can check out from there. Kath will put it in as well. I've got to remember which button I've got to press down. I'm useless. So there we go, Mike's Unboxing Save Parts List. So this is on PCPartPicker.com. If you want to find it, you can do. The links at the top actually, if you've got good eyes, you can see it. So uk.partpicker.com/user/Mike's Unboxing /saved /#view equals LMR. Oh, I can't even see it.
Hold on, that's not the right link.
Kath will put the link in very shortly.
I'll remove that.
So for those of you who can see the screen and you don't really give a damn about following it along anyway, here are my list of parts for the £1,000 RTX build. So first of all, we've gone processor wise. There was a pretty obvious choice on this. The Ryzen 5 3600, 3.6 GHz, 6-core processor. For most people, this is the go-to CPU. Now the price has crept up in recent days and weeks. I actually bought this myself. I'm trying to think when it was. I think it was probably, I'm not sure if it is the beginning of this year or the end of last year, but I think I paid about $155. I seem to remember that sort of price point. So this is now available from, I think this is from Amazon, for £171.95 of your earth pence. It's a great processor. There's very little to actually dislike. And you see some of the UK pricing there. So you've got AWD-IT, got box.co.uk, Amazon, coming in a little bit more expensive, but obviously you do get Prime shipping if you've got Prime. These prices are jerking around all over the place. Personally, I would say go to amazon.co.uk and look at their used section or their kind of returns and maybe pick up a warehouse bargain. You can probably pick one up for about 160, 165. So again, if you want to do that, it can save you some money, but there is lots of choices in the UK. Aria, PCE Buyer, More Computers, CCL, Alza, etc, etc. Alza I probably wouldn't because the shipping is ridiculous, but you get the general idea. It is pretty available and it's got a 5-star rating, so, well, 4.9 to be technically accurate, but you get the general idea. So that is the processor. I don't think anyone would really argue about that. If you're doing a £1,000 build and £500 is tied up with your graphics card, it limits you on choices. The next stage up would be the Ryzen 7 3700X, yeah, which is considerably more money, so it does take us way over our budget. And motherboard wise, this is one you've seen on the channel before, and I've used it on a couple of little builds now, and overall extremely impressed. And for a Ryzen 5 processor, 65 watt, absolutely fine. Even with higher end processors, there's upgradability. I've gone with micro ATX purely because micro ATX boards do tend to be a bit cheaper. Also, this is a AM4 board, which is specifically targeted towards the new Ryzen 3 generation processors and the upcoming 4000s, but it's also got PCI Express Gen 4. Now, this is going to be an arguing point for a lot of people. Do you need Gen 4 for graphics cards? And the reality is, no, you don't. But it's one of those things that it's nice to have, and as the technology grows, as the bandwidth expands, it is going to become more and more prevalent. Now, especially because now we've got the Microsoft API for direct storage, so the graphics card can now talk directly to your NVMe storage to stream data. So textures, all those kinds of things, maps, loading times can be significantly quicker through the PCI Express Gen 4 bus, which is directly supported on the 3070 and the motherboard. So that is the reason why I've chosen this board. You could go with a Tomahawk board if you wanted to. I personally wouldn't. You're limited on memory speed, you're limited on RGB, all those kinds of things, and it's an older board and is possibly only going to get a beta BIOS when the 4000 chips come out. It's going to have limited support. So my personal preference, B550 PRO-VDH Wi-Fi, or possibly the Tomahawk if you want to spend a few pounds more. What was it, Kath?
Glenn's having trouble with Sandbox again, and somebody said...
All right, get back to me on that. Memory wise, we've gone with the Corsair Vengeance LPX 16 gig. Obviously if you want to, you can go for more blingy RGB, but DDR4 3600 is the sweet spot for the Infinity Fabric with the Ryzen 5 3600, so this makes a ton of sense. And also Corsair Vengeance, very well rated, very well respected, almost universally compatible, very good lifetime warranty, and it's low profile, so if you did choose to use a different cooler as things go on, because obviously we're just using the stock cooler, if you want to use a bigger cooler with Vengeance LPX RAM, it's relatively low profile, so you're not going to have any issues with fitting. So this is kind of tailored towards the people that may be wanting to upgrade at a later date when funds become available, or just want to have a system which is very, very flexible. Next up, video card, obviously RTX 3070. Because they're not actually available, I've had to add this as a custom part. I've put in the price there, 469, which is what we saw on the G4 site. So yeah, that is exactly what it is, or hopefully that's what it is, unless something drastic changes. Case-wise, now the case, obviously you can change this to whatever you want. You can put the damn thing in a cardboard box if you want to, or you can spend a couple of £100 on a Lian Li 011 Dynamic, or whatever you want to do, the choice is yours. Obviously this is a micro ATX board, but having said that, we do want to have a bit of extra space. So I've gone with the CIT Flash, which is available from CCL, Scan and Amazon for actually very, very similar prices. So £45. CCL did have it for a crazy £35.91. So this is actually a really nice looking little case. Very, very reminiscent of the Gamax Kamikaze, or GameMax Kamikaze. So you get 4 fans included, tons of RGB, nice case. Generally, overall, I think that just really looks nice. Even though it's got a solid front on it, you do have some airflow on the side, and you can always move the fans back behind to get a little bit more extra airflow. There is a rumour that the GameX Flash, the CIT Flash, Freudian slip, is also going to be available, a new version of it with a mesh front, which is why they are clearing stocks out of the solid front. But again, you can choose what you want. You could have one of the Ions, KZ07, KZ10, KZ11, whatever case you want. Ultimately, it's down to you, it's your build, but for price and for performance and for obviously fans, for around about £45, you can't really do a great deal better than this. So that is why I've gone with the CIT Flash. Next up, power supply. Now we need a fair bit of juice because obviously we're going to be using about 220, 250 watts, maybe slightly more, on the graphics card under load. So we've gone with something which is going to give us a little bit of wiggle room. So this is from Colink, which most people know Colink for their cases, but they do actually make some very decent power supplies. The power supply itself is from, I believe it's CWT is the actual OEM for them, or the ODM, or whatever you want to call it. So it's actually a very nice power supply, very well built, Japanese capacitors. It has got flat black modular cable, flat black non-modular cables, as you can see from some of the pictures here. So actually not a bad little power supply, and 700 watts, 80 plus bronze certified.
They let her cool the fibre department already.
Yeah, I was waiting for somebody to say that. Just because it's an unheard of brand, it is actually made by the same people who make a majority of the lower end Corsair power supplies and EVGA power supplies. It's just rebranded, so don't be put off by the name. Essentially, a lot of them do come from the same places, just you're not paying for the brand. And for $49.99, I think this actually represents really good value for money. Obviously, if you want to, you can spend a lot more and get a silver or gold or platinum rated power supply. But we are trying to stick to this almost magical kind of £1,000 mark, which is where a lot of people will be aiming, especially coming up towards Christmas. Especially when little Johnny goes to Daddy and says, "Daddy, can I have a computer for Christmas?" And he says, "Yes, you can. How much can I have?" Johnny says, and Johnny says, "I need £1,000 because Mike's Unboxing says I can build one for that."
Johnny's might be really dirty.
Oh yeah, little dirty Johnny, bad Johnny. Anyway, so that's the power supply out of the way. Next up is going to be the storage. Now storage is open to a lot of debate. Now I personally like the silicon power drives. They do offer value for money. Often speed wise, they're very, very good on speeds, and they do tons and tons of drives to suit all different kinds of budgets with different types of technology. Now this one, I've deliberately gone for the PCI Express Gen 3 x4 drive. This is the A80, I believe it is. If I take a look, I'm pretty sure it's the A80. It doesn't always show the model number on here. But this is around about £114. the Amazon price is more expensive than if you actually go to Silicon Power site. They are a lot cheaper there. You can buy them off them directly, and you do get quite a big saving because obviously buying direct from the manufacturer or distributor or whatever does save you money. Let's have a closer look. I think it is A80.
Knowing that power supply is by Corsair makes it even worse for Electa.
So yeah, as you can see, the part number there is P34A80. So yeah, it is the A80. So this is PCI Express M.2 Gen 3, and transfer speeds on this, from what I can remember, I think it's like 3,400 megabytes per second on the read, and about 3,000 megabytes per second on the write. Yeah, there it says on the top, up to 3,200. So yeah, they're saying 3,200. So basically, it's 3,000 megabytes per second read and write, essentially. Obviously, your drive may vary depending on other system tasks running when you're benchmarking them, but realistically, that is what you're most likely to find if you ran Crystal Disk or something. But overall, it's a great drive. You got 3D NAND flash on there. It's a TLC drive, so it's the triple level cells, which some people, you get a bit snobby about those. Again, like triple level cells, well, they're not very reliable, etc., etc. But the trouble is, these days, single level cells are ridiculously expensive, and mostly for enterprise drives. Your multi-level cells, or MLC, those are basically dual layer ones, but again, they are quite expensive, and that's what we used to see in some of the older drives back in the day, like the 250 gig, the 500 gig models, etc., etc. They do have slightly better longevity, but they are quite expensive. So the market now has decided that essentially the way they're going to go is TLC and QLC, with the QLC drives being much denser, but with quad level cells, and also with quad levels you've got the sort of slightly lesser speeds on some of the writes. They still read very fast, but for write speeds, because they got a quad level gate to get through, it is a little bit slower. So for me, value for money wise, at the moment, the PCI Express Gen 3 x4 drives, this is pretty much where you want to be at. Now again, you can pick this up. I'm pretty sure I saw this on Silicon Power site for, I think it was £73. So that is a massive saving, but I couldn't find it on PC Part Picker, so I didn't bother with that. But anyway, so total price, including all our shipping, etc., comes out to £1,000, well, £1,022.37. So I guess if you did buy the NVMe directly from Silicon Power, with it being about £20 cheaper on their site, then you could round that down. So with a bit of shopping around, you could actually get a slightly better bargain. And actually, let's try that. I'm interested. Let's go to Silicon Power. Yeah, that's the one. Oh no, that's the PC Part Picker one I just been to. Oh dear. Right, we'll forget that. But essentially, actually, if I find it after I've done this video, I'll try and put some links in the video description. If I do find it cheaper, I will put a direct link there to Silicon Power site so you can check out for yourself.
Punks and Trunks came up on your Google search there.
Did it? Oh god. Where's my things gone? There we go, we're back. Have I got something on my lip there? Oh, who cares? Moving on. So, what do you think? Are you convinced? Is £1,000 well spent there? I personally think it is. Well, obviously I would do, because I wouldn't put it out there for you lot to analyse and take the mickey out of. But essentially, I think that's a pretty balanced system. You've got really fast graphics card, basically the fastest, well, essentially it's the same as the fastest graphics card that you can buy today, but in a £1,000 system with everything you need. Obviously, a Windows license, keyboard, mouse and monitor you will need as well to get up and running. But with a 1 terabyte NVMe, it's going to be nice and fast. You can install Windows on it. You can have a pretty decent amount of games on there. I still have a little bit of space left over. That was the one thing that I found with Kyle's particular interpretation of this. He went for a 500 gig drive. Actually, his was Silicon Power as well. He went for the A60, which was a SSD rather than NVMe, which kind of, you lost the whole point of the Microsoft Direct Storage, or sorry, is it Direct Storage? Whatever it is, anyway. You lose the ability then to do the direct store stuff through the NVMe bus, which, yeah, if you're going to spend that much money, you might as well make advantage of it for the sake of what was an extra 10 or 15 pounds on the drive, double the size of it, and also increase the speed by about 6 times, and also potentially take advantage of that API from Microsoft. So much better situation. Motherboard wise, he went for a gigabyte. I think it was the B550 DS3H. which doesn't really get very good reviews, and compared with MSI's interpretations of the B550, the MSI board's much better in my opinion. But anyway, it is open to interpretation and you can basically get whatever you like. Ugly Bob says, yeah, direct storage, that's the one. J Rich says that build beats at Bitwit, no real compromises. Yes. Thank you, J Rich. I do like to be able to improve on things if I can. Private Husband says, I got a Sabrent 1TB Gen 4 for boot, 3x 3TB HDD for storage. Sabrent drives are well worth the money. Now the Sabrent drives, actually, I was looking at this today, the Sabrent drives are actually QLC drives rather than TLC drives. So they actually use the worst kind of NAND you can get, or the least reliable, but they are massive capacitors and they still run really fast. So they do some really clever things in the firmware, much like Silicon Power and a lot of the other manufacturers do. The Psion controllers that they generally tend to use in them, and also the DRAM cache, which is on the actual chips themselves. Yeah, they do some phenomenal things. QLC isn't as reliable, and for larger file transfers or lots of read-write, they're not brilliant for that. They do have, well, luckily they've got really good wear indicators and they kind of do that load balancing thing, but if one of the cells starts to look like it's failing a little bit, Windows or the actual firmware will say to the system, right, don't use this block for a while, start using other blocks, and basically it will do load leveling. So the QLC drives do tend to last a little bit longer than what they would normally because of the clever firmware. Yeah, you take your choices with those sort of things. Personally, I think TLC is probably the way to go for well, MLC or TLC is the way to go for your main Windows drive because of all the read-write operations and for longevity. QLC drives are absolutely fine for mass storage. Personally, I would totally agree with that. Makes a lot of sense. Any drive which is mass storage or NAS drives, if you're using it for cache, well, a NAS cache you wouldn't use it for, but for a NAS itself, then it would be absolutely fine because you're not doing constant read-writes, you're just doing maybe bulk transfers. Anyway, Dave Burns says TLC chasing waterfalls.
And then Ugly Bob.
I was very tempted to put that. I actually today, or yesterday actually, I recorded a video about the differences between different types of NVMe drives and SSDs and all the technologies, and what I would recommend. Yeah, come into a channel near you very soon, because I know this is going to be those burning questions, and especially now the Gen 4 drives are out more, boards are out more. Obviously now we've got graphics cards which can potentially take advantage of it with that new API. So it is going to become one of those more asked questions. So I figured I'll get in front of the gate and try and answer all those questions in one video. It is a long video, it's about 20 minutes long, but I do go from everything from hard drives through to SSDs, through to chasing rainbows with TLC, chasing waterfalls, that's it, not rainbows, that's what unicorns would do. No, unicorns don't do it. Leprechauns. Is that leprechauns? Is that a thing? No, you can't say it was racist or something, isn't it? Anyway.
Unicorns,
moving on. Ugly Bob says stick to the rivers and lakes that you're used to. Good idea.
That's before you said it.
Right, see what other questions you got. So yeah, so overall, are you pretty much on board with my decisions for the £1,000 build? Is there many things that you would change? I don't really think, other than maybe a slight modification here and there, maybe a slight change of motherboard if you don't particularly need the Wi-Fi on the PRO-VDH. That's right, the VDH Wi-Fi. If you don't need Wi-Fi, then you could change that and save a little bit of money possibly. Maybe even get a cheaper B450 board. I probably wouldn't, just because of that PCI Express Gen 4, which I'm sure sooner or later that is going to become a definite thing. We are getting to the point now where the PCI Express ×3, Gen 3 ×16 is kind of starting to saturate a little bit. Not massively so, and basically a PCI Express Gen 4 ×4 slot will essentially do exactly the same. So it's not the end of the world, but
do you want a drink?
Yeah, I probably do need a drink actually.
Do you want?
Ugly Bob says that's the lack of beer talking. Good point. Kath, beer me up please, especially if it's cold. John Sullivan says it's like unicorn puke going to your head. Oh dear. Junk from Work says, what's up Mike? Hi Junk from Work. If you haven't seen Junk from Work, his channel is great. You should really go and check him out.
Did you have one earlier?
I didn't know.
Angel's stolen one there, hasn't she?
Right, time for a quick drink, everybody. Who's joining me? You joining me for a beer tonight? Cheers, everybody. Okay. Alessa says there is a cheap version of the Sabrent rocket that's QLC, but the ones I have are TLC. Good. Skystalker says, I think your build is awesome. I'd probably go with the 3700X, but that's just me though. 3700X would be a much better choice, especially for that level of graphics card, really. It will help push those numbers up a little bit. If we added on maybe another £150 to the budget, if we're looking maybe a £1,200 system, I think that would definitely be in there, and possibly double up on the RAM. Ladios says, I would die for a cold beer right now.
And me.
Steve D says, just had a cold cider, cheers. Junk from work says, appreciate it, cheers. No problem. Pierre plays YouTube, I've just finished my last San Miguel.
That was you drank it last night, now I've got a warm one. Aleto says, I'm going for a beer, BRB. Ugly Bob says, I'm on the third one, catch up. Oh, I did have some really nice beers brought to us by one of our Discord and YouTube friends. Stalker. Kath said it first. I'm just repeating what Kath said, so don't blame me for that. But yeah, the R9 380X, which we modified with the Arctic fans, I've loaned it out to one of our guys who sold on his graphics card. Getting involved with the Nvidia Gold Rush. Sold his card, so he needed a loaner, so that one is currently out on new loan. And Dave brought us some beers around, which is really nice, which we unfortunately didn't refrigerate. Otherwise we could be enjoying those right now. But they're in now.
Zazam says, I wonder what AMD will bring to the table. I think we're all wondering that. Dave Burns says, Ugly Bob, Jesus. Start that again. Dave Burns says to Ugly Bob, I'm on my 4th. Slow day today. Oh dear. RX 6000 series. Wow, yep, that would be pretty cool. Ugly Bob says Dave Burns, I'm sure we make up for it later on. Yeah, don't forget later on after the stream, you can head over to Achea Shadow over on the Twitch, which hopefully someone will put in the video description. Basically, we stream and we have a laugh, talk a load of trash, and play some silly games where you make up words. There's a game called Quiplash, Murder with Friends, a couple of other games, streaming games. It's a load of fun. And last night we were playing, and I actually almost had a little pee in my pants. I was laughing so hard.
Crying with laughter.
Kath was crying. It's good. Vermond Alstvik says, try for Founders Edition or wait for aftermarket. Someone should really do an emoticon of that right now, because who knows? Hopefully in the next week, I suppose, we should be starting to see some proper benchmarks and results of these cards, seeing what the aftermarket stuff is like, seeing if it's worth it. Yeah, could be very interesting. It really is going to be an exciting run up to Christmas this year. We've got Nvidia have done their thing. We're waiting for AMD to do their thing. We've yet to see, well, I'm gonna have to get this off my chest. The other day, I was invited to MSI's launch thing, and I was excited thinking, oh wow, yeah, they're gonna be releasing their new RTX cards. This is gonna be awesome. So got my invite, I'm ready, waiting to watch the stream. And then they opened up to basically pretty much everybody. I was like, yeah, this is going to be interesting. What are they going to release? And essentially, they've changed their logo. If you haven't seen it, go to the MSI website and you can see their logo. It's different. I'm not sure if it's their entire global logo or whether it's just for the particular range of notebooks they're doing. But they've got this bizarre new logo, and they've essentially released some Intel laptops with some processor in. Literally, as it started, I'm like, oh, it's business laptops. Kill me now. Very, very disappointed with that. Anyway, moving on. So yeah, that wasn't, I didn't really enjoy that. If any of you actually went to that or actually started watching it and didn't fall into some kind of coma, let me know. I'd be interested. John Sullivan says, I would wait for the AIB models. Pierre Plays YouTube says, 1, I don't like the design of the Founders Edition cards, and 2, I don't want hot air blowing over my CPU, so AIB for me.
Can you sing that?
Almost. That's actually something, I've seen a lot of people saying that. I know the fan does blow up, and it technically will be blowing into the path of your CPU. But generally that is what is happening in most systems anyway. It's just there isn't a fan moving it quicker. Because the heat generally, from your graphics card, if you've got it horizontally mounted, the fans are underneath and the heat is dissipating out both sides. So if you imagine the case is long ways, this is the tempered glass screen, this is your motherboard, you've got your graphics card here, CPU here. So currently, obviously, convection, you've got heat rising. So the graphics card fans are spinning there, and the heat is spilling out up to your NVMe storage area, and then into your graphics card. And from the other side, it's hitting the glass on your side panel, and then coming back up, and then being taken out the back from the case fan. Some of it obviously will be taken in by the input on the CPU as well, especially if you've got like a flat mounted CPU fan rather than like a tower cooler. So I don't see that as being a big issue. I genuinely don't. I don't think that is going to be a problem. All cases struggle with a lot of temperature, depending on the size of them. If you've got a massive case with loads of fans, it isn't going to be an issue. Personally, my GameMax F15, the airflow in that thing is so crazy, it essentially replaces the entire volume of the entire case every couple of seconds. So it never gets to a point where there's any kind of heat wash. So for me personally, there won't be any issue there. I can understand why there's some people that may have that. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be an issue. I genuinely don't. If anything, moving that heat out quicker and having a less resistive path, so it's going straight up rather than having to go kind of up and then out and then away, I think it's going to cool the graphics card down quicker.
But the problem is they're ugly.
I don't know. Ugly is a subjective thing. That I cannot change your mind on that. Yeah, Pierre, that's down view. That's on you, definitely. The main issue, they're ugly. See, I think they look really nice. I do. I want to see one in person. I really need to
in person.
I need to see it in the flesh, not some photoshopped image. We'll see. Hopefully, we'll get one and see what it is actually like. And if it's ugly, then we'll just have to put it at the back of the case and just forget about it, or give it to Bob. Let's see. Skylark PUBG says, I'd love Cooler Master or Corsair cabinets for that ideal airflow. It's not really about the brand, it's more about the fans. You can pretty much get any case you want, regardless of design. If you put the right fans in it and in the right places, you will have good airflow. Even if you've got a case which is really choked off on the front. And actually a prime example of this is something else which I should really get off my chest, because answering questions on YouTube is not for the faint-hearted. A lot of it is really nice, and there's some really wonderful people, like probably some of you that are watching right now, who put in some really fantastic comments and say, thank you, Mike, you've helped me, or I really liked your video, etc, etc. Really, really kind, encouraging thoughts, and we like those a lot. But there's others which clearly have either just seen the thumbnail for the video and are triggered immediately and can't be bothered to watch a video, so they just type in whatever they're thinking, which is fine, totally your prerogative, and basically it's more interaction on our videos, so it all helps with the algorithm, but doesn't help with my self-esteem. So if I've done a video, case in point, pun intended, for the Sahara, the C501. Now that case was a nice case, in my opinion. I liked it, and I didn't find any issues with it with airflow. It did have a solid front panel, but it did have slits down the side, which were pretty much open. Essentially, there was no filtration there, so air was going straight through it. It had 3 140mm fans on the front, and they're all relatively high RPM fans. So because they're relatively high RPM fans, they have a lot of static pressure. So if they were slower fans, then yes, potentially you could have issues with cooling because it's not been able to force enough air through those slits, but it did. And I reviewed it and I showed it in the video, saying that yes, it's got a closed panel, but there's 3 140mm fans, you've got 420mm of airflow there. How can it possibly be a hotbox? It isn't, it can't be. I even deliberately put in the hottest running processor I have in the house, which was the Intel i7 6700K, which for those of you that have used one, you'll know that that is actually quite a beast to tame. And even with an Arctic freezer on there, with the fans ramped up a little bit, it still does generate a lot of heat. Also had a 1070 in there to try and create a little bit more heat, and also with it in the vertical mounting situation, so worst case scenario for everything in there. And it still kept it amazingly cool. There was so much airflow, it was ridiculous. Even with Prime 95 and I think it was Furmark or Unigine Heaven running at the same time, it was absolutely brilliant. I wouldn't even say it was fine, it was good. Very good. The cooling was excellent. It was a little bit noisier than I'd have liked, but then it is generating an absolute metric shit ton of heat. So that is to be expected, but it copes with it very, very well. And I said that in the video. So then when someone comes in and says, Mike, that case is going to be rubbish, it's choked off at the front. It's like, but which part of the video did you not watch? Like from the beginning to the end? I basically said this all the way through. So,
same with the Tomahawk.
Yeah, same with the Tomahawk board. People say, oh, the Tomahawk board is brilliant. Why are you dissing it? It's like, well, I didn't diss it. I just said there are other options available which may be better for you. If you're running a certain type of hardware, then certainly for the same money, there is a better alternative. Yes, it will work fine. Fine isn't always what people want. People want the optimum solution for their particular purchase, which is what I was trying to allude to. Keyboard warriors, love them. So anyway, essentially what I'm trying to say is, regardless of what you hear from a reviewer say, or from what you may have seen on my site, or from a Discord channel, from another YouTube channel, whatever the case may be, if you go around spouting information that you've seen or heard elsewhere, that's fine, but you need to be able to back it up with actual hands-on experience, which is why I review these cases and then make a comment on them. Otherwise, there's no point, because I'm just spouting someone else's BS, essentially. And to break up my my ranting, to shut me up, Gary has thrown us in $5 and says, for Mike's great reviews. Don't forget CAF, but thank you, Gary. I do appreciate that. And for those of you who are new here and you don't know what the hell is going on, well, you probably come to the right place, because I don't know what's going on half the time. But the RGB bulb goes off when there is a super chat that comes in. This is a way of me acknowledging it. Gives you a little bit of RGB, gives Kath a little bit of exercise to get up and turn the lights off. And she loses her seat to the cat.
Sorry.
So, yeah, there you go. So I suppose actually Aisha, Pierre Plays YouTube says, how dare you talk crap about the Tomahawk, Mike? Lol. It is, yeah. Randall Lane says, don't let it worry you, Mr. Mike, just keep driving on and rocking. Oh no, I am totally. And that is my whole thing. Like, I'm quite happy, sometimes, depending on what mood I'm in, I'm quite happy to challenge those kinds of answers and reply to them and say, well, that's absolutely fine. I appreciate your comment and your point of view, but I'm talking from a point of actually having the physical hardware in front of me in a relatively controlled test, so I can see the differences for myself. I haven't gone out and just typed in something on YouTube and it's kind of, oh, that's the answer to my question.
Although,
oh, PC's gone to sleep.
Kim Borch, can't remember if you did a review on the Masterbox Lite 5. No, that's Hotbox.
Yes.
That was our previous.
Yes, yeah, that is the last one. The Cooler Master Masterbox Lite 3.1 was a particular case that I had exactly the same issue, and people were absolutely adamant that that case was absolutely fine. And the Q300L, which was essentially the same thing. How can it be bad for airflow, Mike? It's got a mesh all over it. Yes, it has. It had mesh everywhere, but it was a mesh which was so fine, air couldn't get through it. And when you put the air filters over the top of that mesh, you had even less chance of getting air through it. And then, thankfully, him above, Steve from Gamers Nexus, Tech Jesus, did the same review and had exactly the same findings as me, and I was like, thank you, I'm not going completely insane. And it was weird because there was a lot of other YouTube channels out there which did the same case review and were all like, oh yeah, this is great, and I've put this in there and it's absolutely brilliant. It's like, are you tripping? Anyway, Skystalker has thrown 10 Canadian dollars at us and says, we really appreciate your opinions, Mike. Don't change. I will try not to, although I was considering... No, actually, I'm not going to go there. ClickTech Kev says the Q300L was awful. Yes, the Q300L was an absolute sack of shit. Excuse my French, but there's no... I'm not going to put any kind of spin on it. When I first reviewed it, did the unboxing, I took it out and it was like, wow, this is different. It's completely changed everything about a PC case at a really, really good price point. And it basically looked like something out of Minecraft, which was very topical at the time. It had all the right features, removable dust filters, apparent ventilation, brilliant price point. And as such, I said so in the initial reviews. Looks to be absolutely fine. Then actually after using it in a real environment with a cheapo rebuild with a very hot processor and a very hot graphics card, it absolutely tanked immediately. And so I made a video on it and said, basically, don't buy this, it's horrendous. And everyone's like, oh no, you've put the wrong parts in there. It's like, it's a case, it's designed for putting parts in. If it said on there, please do not put hot things in this box, then I wouldn't have bought it. But it doesn't come with any warnings or any kind of literature. Yeah, it's just ridiculous. You don't buy things to say, well, I'm going to buy some ice cream and I'm going to put it in the freezer. And they're saying, well, no, this freezer actually can only cool kind of peas and sprouts. It's not really set up for ice cream. It's like, what the are you talking about? It's a bloody freezer. Freeze my shit. Anyway, moving on. Ah, dear, la 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 la. I have to woosah some shit. Woosah. That's better. I'm okay now. Smarky says, Masterbox 5 Lite is absolute crap. 3 square inches of airflow at the front for 3 120 fans. Yes. O'Reilly Slit says, Mike, your honesty makes me laugh. Keep on being you. I will try. Aletta says, no hot things in the box. Okay, I'll stay out. Oh dear. Tristan G, lol, don't put hot things in this box. It's true. It's true. Carlsberg Rant and Rage. It's a good job this isn't cider, because I'd be going crazy by now. I'd be throwing things.
Or Jen, you'd be crying.
Ah, dear. Okay. I think I've got that off my chest. I think I'm good now. I think I'm alright.
High five the screen if you're nice.
High five. High five what?
The screen if you are nice.
Okay.
Times the man will make you too.
Okay. I don't quite get that, but okay. Ghost says 79 viewers, but only 41 likes. Come on, people. And John Sullivan says VRMs are decent. I probably missed something there completely. What board are they talking about?
I think it was
the... Oh, the B550 Gaming Plus. Yeah, the Gigabyte boards have had a little bit of a negative press, but I don't know whether it's negative. I think it's just the fact that MSI have done such a good job on the B550s that everyone else is looking a bit shabby or shoddy in comparison. Oh, John Sullivan says this is the B450M Steel Legend. Yeah, VRMs aren't amazing on there, but certainly will get the job done. Kim Borch says, I heavily modified my Lite 5, drilled about 500 holes in the front panel in a pattern and added a 140mm fan in the top. Works like a charm. Totally. That is my point entirely, and I think I made 2 follow-up videos of basically modifying the Masterbox Lite 3.1. And actually it got to the point in the end where I didn't really have a lot of metal or plastic left. It was essentially just a motherboard held together with screws and fans. But it looked quite nice. That was the trouble. The Masterbox 3.1 and the 5 Lite, they both looked amazing. That angular Perspex front panel, it just looked really, really good. It's just such a shame that they let it down with that airflow. Really, really bad. And in fact, I did see one for sale on UK Hot Deals recently, and I was almost tempted to revisit it with modern, cooler running hardware just to see if I could make it work, but I couldn't do it. Couldn't do it to myself. Tristan G is coming with $2 and says, "Keep it real, Mike. I like the conversation. Thank you." Thank you, Tristan. Thank you for support. Well, thanks all of you for supporting the channel in however way you see fit, whether it's just because you've hit that like button or click subscribe, the chime button, all that kind of stuff, and the super chats as well. All of you are bloody amazing. And Kath and I thank you very much. And especially Tristan, because he's the latest one. Elemental Gaming MC. Mike, what about for a 3070 build with a Ryzen 5 3600? How do you think the B450 Steel Legend would be with it? Yes, that actually highlights my point. It really does. Because the B450 Steel Legend is a good board. And it will do fine with those components. But it isn't the optimal solution. You've got a processor there which supports the latest and greatest technologies, PCI Express Gen 4. Also the graphics card is going to support PCI Express Gen 4, but you're getting a board which is Gen 3. So immediately, potentially, you're holding back a little bit. Also as well, memory speeds are going to be a concern because the B450 boards, although they can be overclocked with the RAM, generally the sweet spot on most of those boards is around about the 3200 mark. Anything over that is a bonus, whereas with the B550 boards and X570 boards, 3600 is easy, 4000 is pretty easy on most boards. So the Infinity Fabric at 1800 MHz on the Ryzen processor is ideally matched with DDR4 3600 to get that real sweet spot. Essentially what you're doing if you're buying a B450 board is you're leaving potential performance on the table. Now if you can get a board excessively cheap, so maybe 30–40 pounds cheaper than its B550 counterpart, then definitely it would be crazy not to do it. It genuinely would. If you're saving that much money, hell, why not? And if you don't mind about the performance, if you're not one of those people that is on Cinebench R20 or doing your, whatever it is, Diskmark, Crystal Disk, Unigine Heaven, whatever the case may be, if you're not doing your benchmarks and you just want to use the computer, play some games, have some fun, go on YouTube, watch Mike's unboxing, it's going to do it absolutely fine. And realistically, you're unlikely to notice any real difference. But all I try to point out is the fact that the B550 boards are getting a lot cheaper, and the lower end B550 boards, in most cases, especially for MSI, are considerably better VRM wise than pretty much all of the B450 boards that have ever been produced. So that is how far they've come with the VRM solutions on this. The B550M PRO-VDH Wi-Fi, the VRM solution on this is essentially exactly the same as the VRM solution on the Tomahawk Max, which is known to be one of the better VRM solutions. So you don't necessarily need the Tomahawk board anymore because this is a good replacement. You've also got PCI Express Gen 4, you've got pretty much guaranteed BIOS updates for the foreseeable. It's just newer technology. And also if you're considering moving up to NVMe storage, not only have you got your PCI Express Gen 4 on your top slot, but you've got PCI Express Gen 3 on the bottom slot. Whereas if you go for B450 boards, you've got Gen 3 on the top slot, you've only got Gen 2 on the bottom slot. So that is going to limit your data speeds if you are going for an all NVMe setup. Obviously, depending on the boards, if you get like a 3-slot board, yes, it changes, and also you're sharing bandwidth with all those slots. So with the B550 and X570, if you're looking at NVMe only storage, they are certainly the better way to go because you get much better data transfer. But ultimately, it's down to what you're going to be using the PC for, what you can actually afford, and where you're headed. If you're headed for a quick upgrade at some point, then yeah, just get whatever you need to get yourself up and running. It's absolutely fine. But if you're buying now and you're absolutely skint, you haven't got a pot to piss in, and you're gonna have to hold on to it for a little while, then I would try and pay a little bit more, future-proof yourself a little bit more if you can. It will last you longer. As we all know, you try getting a BIOS update for a B350 motherboard now. Virtually impossible, doesn't happen. X370s, possible. Some of the really popular ones, you might get the occasional update for. generally it's going to be in beta format. So boards do get left behind. So if you're buying a board which is now 2 years old, which most of the B450 set is, you are going to get to the point where they're going to leave you behind and they will be concentrated on the newer modern boards. It's a simple economies of scale. They don't want to spend hours and hours updating older boards with newer features when they're trying to sell new stuff. It's also a way of kind of forcing you into an upgrade by saying, well, we're not going to kind of do much for that board anymore, but this board's new and hot, so we're going to update this and make sure this is reliable, add more memory support, all those kinds of things, which is some of the things you need to take into account. But then some people don't do BIOS updates, don't do regular RAM changes, don't do periodic updates. So as long as it works on day one, they're absolutely fine. But then you do have to consider also, if you're going to be doing it with an idea to flip the system at some point, if you're buying something old now, when you come to flip it, it's even older. So people are going to be less likely to do it. And the marketing hype train is going to be, especially now you've got AMD cards and Nvidia cards all using PCI Express Gen 4, it's going to be a box ticker. Someone looks at a system, Intel are going to be up shit street completely because they're going to be selling motherboards and say, oh, yeah, it's got this, oh, Gen 3 PCIe. Ooh. They're going to lose out. You know they are, purely because it's a box ticking exercise. So there we go. I think I've exhausted that topic, but hopefully it makes sense to you. I'm not dissing the older boards, and they do the job. They get it done. It's just there are alternatives available, and it's not like I'm kind of one of these YouTubers that gets loads of stuff sent to me and I just review it and it's like, yeah, this is the latest and greatest because it doesn't cost me anything. I actually pay for this stuff out of my own money to the most point. Motherboards and all that stuff, they don't send this stuff to me. I actually go out and buy it. But I'm not going to go out and buy stuff if it's pointless or it's rubbish or it's useless. Or if I do, I'll buy it and then I'll send it back. Essentially, I buy stuff because I genuinely believe it's value for money, because I've got to put this either for sale somewhere and try and recoup at least some of the investment in it, or put it into a system to sell. And I'm hardly going to put something which is crap in a system I'm going to sell, because then ultimately I'm the one who's got to support that system. Wow, I sound like Kerry Holzman then. Oh, damn. But I do totally agree with that point of view. There's no point in selling stuff on which is crap or that you don't entirely believe in, because it just bites you in the ass and you end up spending more time supporting it than any of the profit that you may have potentially got from it. So, yeah, there we go. F7's in the house, says, all right folks, how's it going tonight? Aye, not bad. Shane Hill says hi.
Elemental asked.
Elemental said something.
About the top.
I can't see it.
In your opinion, what would you say is the best B550 motherboard with great VRMs and has Aura Sync RGB for the best price?
What would I say is the best B550 motherboard with great VRMs and has Aura Sync RGB for the best price? That is a tough one. If you specifically want Aurora Sync from ASUS and you're invested in that ecosystem for most of the ASUS stuff, as long as it's the 5-volt addressable RGB 3-pin, it will work with most boards. Pretty much every single B550 board on the market that has any form of RGB will have both the 5-volt addressable RGB and the 12-volt addressable RGB. The MSI boards generally do pull out in front as far as VRMs go, so if you're thinking of overclocking, then they're probably the way to go. Ultimately, most of the 3000 series chips don't really overclock particularly well. They can overclock. It's not as massive a boost as what we've seen with the 1000 and 2000 series chips. Generally, most people, I would say, realistically, switch on precision boost overclocking, maybe a very slight undervolt in the BIOS, and that is pretty much all you need, and you should get the most efficient use out of the processor. Oh, this chair. I'm going to have to swap out the Kaf's chair soon.
You have to sit on the front of it because the cat has the most.
The cat has most of the chair, Kaf has the rest of it. To answer your question, I would say if it's an ASUS board, I would probably go for, I would probably not go for a B550, I'd probably go with the X570 Tough Gaming Wi-Fi, or Tough Gaming X, I think. That's the one I've got in my system. And actually that has been particularly good, although saying that, for some reason, it does appear that my RGB is turned off. Oh, it's because the PC's gone to sleep. That'll do it.
If you're going with an MSI board, I would say, oh, the PRO-VDH Wi-Fi is great, the Mortar is great, obviously the Tomahawk boards are all very, very good. Depends what your budget is really, how much you want to spend.
Tomahawk didn't have
the 550 Tomahawk's fine, yeah. Very difficult to call it really. Maybe drop by on our Discord chat and we can throw some options at you. And also if you let us know which country you're in, we can probably look at pricing because that does make a difference. Some countries have crazy pricing structures, so what we consider to be good value for money in the UK or the US or Canada or whatever, some of the kind of more, I would say, not mainstream, that's the wrong word, but kind of more focused on areas. But in certain countries, the pricing schedule or structure is completely out of whack, so some boards can be ridiculously expensive. What else have we got? Aletta says IQ software is just a hair short of malware. I've actually got the IQ software on this PC behind me, running in the i465 whatever it is. And actually, I quite like it. I hate to say it. Tams the Man says UK for the win. I don't think you're allowed to say that anymore. I'm sure the thought police come around. Matt Carter says I've got the Ryzen 3600 running at 4.3 gigahertz, all core at 1.175. That's pretty decent. Gary says IQ has a mind of its own. It keeps the system from sleeping sometimes. I wonder if that is why my graphics card keeps on ramping up and down. I may have to investigate that. Kenny D says it's crazy to see RTX 2080s for 250 quid on eBay. I wish I had a higher quality 500 watt PSU or 650 watt PSU so I can snag one for an amazing price. I'll snag one for an amazing price and then get the PSU later. Ghost Adder's put the link in for Discord. Thank you very much, Ghost Adder. Tristan G says, I run Corsair IQ. All my systems are fine running this and all peripherals. Yeah, I've got to be honest with you, I wouldn't say I've experienced any serious problems with the IQ, although saying that, that system behind me very rarely gets much use these days. It's basically just a bloody expensive light bulb. Ugly Bob says, I haven't heard the graphics card go vroom tonight.
It did it a lot
No,
before.
it did it loads of times earlier on today. I was recording a video and every couple of seconds like, whoo. I don't know what it is.
Really quick.
It's, yeah. I don't know why it does it. It just does it for a few seconds, then it's off again. Very, very strange. What brand is your GPU? I know.
Yeah.
Mike or Milwaukee? Which brand is your GPU? The one in that PC behind me is Gigabyte. It's a Gigabyte motherboard and it's a Gigabyte graphics card. I've got a sneaking suspicion that my B450 Aorus Elite is on its last legs. Because whenever I try to go into the BIOS, it says that the BIOS has been reset. Every single time I go into the BIOS, it just goes back to default values.
Which is a massive shame because we just have to review
Yeah, which means I can't even remember where I got it. Where did I get it? Oh, I bet it's a bloody CCL. Oh God, I don't want to have to do an RMA through them. They're a pain in the ass. Oh well, you never know. Hopefully I didn't. Hopefully I got it from Amazon. It'd be great. In fact, I think every Gigabyte board I've owned so far, at some point I've actually returned. Oh no, I haven't. I've sold.
Conflict between BIOS and Fusion.
It probably is. It's a conflict between the BIOS and Fusion. Ah, that could be it. Yeah, RGB Fusion. Maybe that is what is the... Oh, mine did it too. Smacky, if you were local or nearby, I would kiss you right now.
Not Smacky.
Not Smacky. What?
Not giving Smacky.
No, you were getting Smacky, but that is... I'm going to uninstall RGB Fusion because that has been problematic as well because it keeps on trying to update and it won't update itself. So maybe that is it. I feel a video coming on. Dark Fury X says change the BIOS battery or set fire to the bloody thing. John Sullivan says my GTX 1080 Gaming X did the vroom noise for a while, then ultimately it died. MSI refused to help me out. Thanks, MSI.
Damn. Yeah, I don't know what it is. It hasn't done it tonight. It's weird because I keep on setting it in the AMD software to turn off fan stop, just so that it's basically what it is. Under 40 degrees, the fan stays off. As it gets above 40 degrees, the fan is supposedly supposed to start slowly ramping up. But it doesn't. It waits till it gets to some crazy temperature, like 50 or 60 degrees, and then all of a sudden it just comes on at 100% and then turns off again. I don't know why. I don't want to do a reinstall of Windows because I've got Office and all that kind of stuff on there, and I don't want to reinstall everything, although I fear I may have to. Are you on that, Cav?
Yeah.
Okay.
Should I just ban?
Ugly Bob says, I can hear the cat. O'Reilly says, I hear cats. I didn't hear cats. Did we hear cats? I must have missed something there. Kenny D says, at Gary Haig, there are loads of RTX 2080s for 250 quid. It's the RTX 2080 Ti's that are 600 plus. Ooh. I do quite fancy getting hold of one now. That would be nice. So what other videos we did this week? We did the Co-Link Citadel early in the week. What did you think of that? The little micro ATX wonder that is the Co-Link Citadel. I actually really enjoyed that. I didn't think I was going to like it. I had some weird vision that it was going to be like the first player gaming DK-D3, I think it's called, which looks a lot kind of more short and squat, especially in the pictures. They were supposedly sending me one for review, but still nothing, nada, not here. So yeah, they're off my shopping list. But yeah, I was quite surprised. The Co-Link Citadel is a little bit more expensive, but actually the quality of it is really, really nice. Do find now there's this a weird gap in the PC market. You've got your kind of real cheapo cases, like your Ions, like the KZ10s, that sort of thing. Then you've got a bit of a gap in the 30 to 40 pounds mark at the moment. There's nothing that really stands out, unless you go micro ATX, and there's a couple. The one that we looked at earlier, which was the CIT Flash, I think it was called, which is pretty decent, £45, but it's getting close to that £50 mark. And then when you get to 50, 60, again, there's a few decent cases out there, but then all the others seem to be kind of 60 to £100, which to me still seems like an extraordinary amount for a case, especially when maybe only 5-6 years ago, £100 for a case was like the cream of the crop. That would be the best on the market. Even when we had things like the Antec 900, which cost around about 80, 90 pounds, that was considered a flagship high-end case. Whereas now you can spend £100 on basically a mid-range case, which is pretty scary. Anyway, Ugly Bob says, oh, yeah, we did the shucking video, taking the MyBook drive out, which ironically, after doing that on the Western Digital drive, actually one of the companies, one of the reps from companies reached out to us and said, would you be interested in doing a video for Western Digital? And I was like, yeah, that's fine, but I have just released a video yesterday showing how to basically destroy one of their drives. So if they're fine with me doing that, then yes, I'm very, very happy to work with Western Digital and do a video for them. But maybe you should check out with them first to see if they're happy with what I've done. So yeah, fingers crossed, we'll see how that goes. I hope it'd be really nice to get Western Digital on board. We have also had some good news from Seagate. Seagate will hopefully be sending us some drives for our NAS, so we can actually start increasing the storage size of our NAS and do some tutorials on how to upgrade the storage capacity of NAS drives, how to rebuild RAID arrays, all that kind of stuff. I know Sky Stalker is going to be watching this and thinking, brilliant, because he's ordered the NAS box, the DS220 Plus, which I reviewed a little while back, and yeah, I can pretty much guarantee he's going to be looking at these thinking, right, let's let Mike do it first, let him learn how to do it, and then he can show me how to do it to make life a lot easier, which is essentially what I'm here for. So we'll definitely be doing that.
think, yes, that was it. What is going on there? Right, okay, moving on. So we did the Have It combo, the keyboard. Oh, actually, that was quite an interesting one. The keyboard and mouse combo set from Have It. I wasn't too sure how that video was going to go. I know that people get really, really, really kind of not defensive, or people are a little bit snobby about keyboards, if I'm brutally honest. Personally, myself, I'll type on anything. If I need to type, I don't care what it is. If it's a cheapy £5 stretcher keyboard or Walmart keyboard or whatever, Asda cheap, I don't care. As long as I can type on it, it's absolutely fine. I'll get used to it eventually. There are some keyboards which I found that I really do enjoy using. Originally, I thought I was a little bit of a Cherry MX Brown person. I've now found that I think I actually prefer the Otomu Reds. I don't know why, because technically that's a cheaper switch and it's a clone, but I actually really enjoy typing on the Otomu Reds. I don't know what it is. The thing is just, maybe it's the pressure, maybe it's the resistance, the lack of a distinct kind of bump as you're typing. Don't know what it is, I just enjoyed typing on it. So when Have It asked me if I was to try their keyboard, which is using the Otomu Blues, I was kind of like, okay, seems fine. And they said it's a rainbow keyboard. And I'm like, oh God, that's not going to go down well, because people either love or hate RGB. If they love it, they want to be able to control it. So having a keyboard which basically just does an RGB thing and a few other patterns, but not actually being kind of addressable, so each individual section is a color. Actually, in fact, when I did the review, it wasn't too bad, and because of the different patterns on there, you actually didn't really realize it was a rainbow keyboard unless you actually looked really hard and said, oh yeah, then you notice it. So you didn't really notice it from the offset, and the mouse was actually really nice to use. And for a combo, for a mechanical keyboard and a pretty decent DPI mouse, I think it was around about £35 we worked out in the end that you could get it for as a lightning deal on Amazon. For that sort of money, it was absolutely brilliant. Mechanical switches again on a keyboard. Normally you'd be paying 35, 40, maybe £50 anyway, unless you get some kind of special deal. To have the mouse thrown in as well, and those Otomu Blue switches, I didn't mind them. I didn't mind them at all. They were okay. I could probably get used to them as my daily driver if I had to, although I am quite attached to my GameMax Strike keyboard. I don't know why, I really do enjoy using that keyboard. It's a cheap keyboard, it costs about £27. I really like it. My Strike keyboard and my Strike mouse with my GameMax F15 case, for me, is just the cream of the crop. It doesn't cost a fortune, it works, it looks nice, all matches, happy days. And I think the case, the keyboard and the mouse all together probably cost less than £100 for the lot. And that is a lot of case and a lot of keyboard for less than £100. A lot of people spend more than £100 just on the keyboard alone. Anyway, there we go. Pierre Plays YouTube says the Have It RGB mousepad is horrible, the lighting is inconsistent and is really bad hotspots. I'm glad they never sent me that then, because I would have probably experienced the same. John Sullivan says just waiting for a new brand. Get in. That would be a good one. Pierre Plays YouTube says feeling like Mike is a GameMax fanboy. I'll be honest with you, I am. I genuinely do love GameMax stuff. The keyboard, they did have a special offer on it. I think it was from CCL, down to about £25. And I was so tempted just to get another one, even though I've got one already. It's just like, if it fails or anything happens to it, I will be upset. I do genuinely like it. I use it on the editing PC, pretty much, answering all the questions, YouTube stuff. For me, it's a great keyboard, and shame I can't show you the keyboard, but it's there, it's just there. And it does a really good job. And for the money, you can't really argue. I think when I reviewed it, it was a little bit more expensive, around about the £40 mark, which I was a little bit more kind of, I don't know. But for £25, £30, yeah, absolute smasher. And the Have It keyboard, again, very, very similar, slightly lacking in some of the features, but overall, pretty decent. Next one was the Umidigi U-Watch GT, which was the kind of chunky, athletic style watch.
both of those things, of which I am not. Well, chunky possibly, but that's more COVID weight. Athletic, not so much. But actually a really nice little watch. The display on it was really good. I really did appreciate the display. It was only an LCD display, but it actually did look like it was kind of IPS or OLED, something like that. It did look a lot crisper than actually you would expect for that sort of money. Again, it was a relatively cheap sports watch, around like £40 I think you can pick them up for. So for a relatively well-featured smartwatch, £40 is not a lot of money. The Fitbits, pretty much every single Fitbit starts from around about £80, £90 upwards, and have really got less features. And if you've ever used the Fitbit app, it is just an absolute world of pain. Trying to get things to synchronize, trying to get things to pair. It is absolute nightmare from start to finish. And the Bluetooth technology they use is like a proprietary technology, so it doesn't work basically very well with most other phones other than the ones they've tested with. I don't know how they've managed to get it so badly wrong. Hopefully now that Google have kind of either bought or are buying Fitbit, hopefully they can make some tweaks there and actually develop the product to make it a little bit better and a bit more easy to use, especially with Android devices, which is where it does suffer with at the moment. But yeah, the Umidigi GT watch, pretty decent, like that a lot. We're probably going to be doing a giveaway on that very shortly, so if there's anybody who's interested in one of those watches, then pop over to the Discord and let us know. Maybe we'll sort out a good deal or some sort of giveaway. We'll sort something out anyway. Then the last up this week was the Sahara C501 RGB case, which was limited in RGB, but overall a really nice case. Still haven't found out from Sahara what the final retail price is going to be on that. They keep on saying that it's selling really well at the price they've set, and I said to them, I can't find it here in the UK. I'm really struggling to find it. Where can you send me some links? And they're like, oh yeah, no worries, we'll send them for you on Monday. So I'm kind of in limbo at the moment because I asked the questions Thursday or Friday, made the video, blah, 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 etc., etc. So I'm still waiting for the answers back. But depending on the price, that could be a really, really nice case to build in. And I have actually from InWin, I forgot to mention this. InWin have sent over a set of fans for us to review. Well, two sets in fact. If I can just find them in the pile. Also, we've got a joystick to review from EasySMX, but that'll be coming up soon. Wireless Bluetooth mouse for use with Nintendo Switch, PC, and PlayStation, etc. But this is more about the InWin fans. So these are the Saturn Rgb fans, the ASN120 and the ASN140. These are really, really cool, excuse the pun. You get a 3-pack, two 3-packs, 140mm, 120mm. They're daisy chainable. They come with all the kit in there, so you can basically link them together. So you plug in the main kind of control unit into your system on the PWM and also the addressable RGB header. If you haven't got an addressable RGB header, there is a control box included, which you can go through and cycle. You can connect up to your reset switch as well. So if you're an unfortunate person with a B450 Tomahawk, you can still use addressable RGB by wiring this up to your resets case button, and all is good. Like I said, they're daisy chainable, so you've got one cable going from the control box into one side of the fan, and then you've got like an umbilical cord which will go from the other side into the next fan. So you can literally have one PWM header controlling all of your fans in your system. Now I've had this running before in my InWin 101C, I think it was, and I think I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I had 6 fans running off one header, and it still ran absolutely fine. Ideally, really, probably 4, I'd say, is about the max comfortably at full load, depending on your motherboard. This was an Asus board X370, which had particularly good headers, so it wasn't a problem. But realistically, I would say probably 3 or 4 fans per string would be pretty much where you want to be. The one funny thing I noticed actually about this is the fact that the Saturn 140mm fans, InWin as such, do not do a kind of consumer grade case which you can put 140mm fans in. So I was thinking, well, what case can I actually put these in? Which was really lucky, because then we had that case from Sahara Gaming, which takes 3 140mm fans in the front section, which weren't RGB. So this and this will be going into the Sahara Gaming case, and we'll see what it's like. Get some serious airflow going with
240 mils worth of airflow coming in, 360 mils of airflow going out. This should move quite a lot of air and have a considerable amount of bling. But anyway, that'll be coming up in a video, hopefully coming in this week, possibly, I'm not too sure. We're a little bit ahead of ourselves at the moment. We've got a few videos in the pipeline already. So it might be Friday, or we might just chuck in an extra video somewhere along the line, just so you got something extra to watch. Yeah, I think that pretty much sums up things.
Did you do that after making me do it?
Yeah, I've just done that.
Oh, cool. Caught up.
Okay, so yeah, I think that is pretty much it. We are done. I think I've exhausted every possible solution that I can discuss. I could milk this out for a little while more, but, well, actually, while I'm milking it out, don't forget to pick up your Mike's Unboxing pens.
Show Dave Burns, I did put them there.
Dave Burns, these have been here all night. Dave Burns gets upset if there's not Mike's Unboxing pens actually in the stream, so it's quite heavyweight. I nearly clobbered my tackle. So you can use them as an antenna, and now I can pick up various radio stations and Freeview.
Can you hold them on your lips as well?
No, they're too heavy for that, can't hold them there. Do the boob test? No, that's not going to work.
Get room under them.
Okay. Ah, dear. Ugly Bob says Mike's Unboxing reviews next week. Whoa, pens. Yeah, these are, you can actually use these on most motherboards, just screw them into the back, unscrew the front, and you can use these as Wi-Fi antenna.
Oh, they
you can, I'm joking.
Night,
actually, in Achea Shadow stream, there is one of the games where you have to draw stuff on the t-shirts, and using these, pretty much most of us playing the game, all using our Mike's Unboxing pens and the stylus on the end to draw our pictures. And we managed to draw some very interesting pictures of both male and female genitalia, which was interesting. Yeah.
Mostly.
Oh dear. Anyway, moving on. Okay, so that pretty much wraps things up. Hopefully you've all had a semi-entertaining evening. Thank you all for joining us. As per usual, don't forget to smash the like button on your way out, and yeah, try and share the videos. If you've got a friend, or maybe even someone you don't like, and you think they might be interested in our content, send them a link, and you never know, you might cheer them up or give them someone else to hate.
Get rid of their insomnia.
Yeah, they'll get rid of their... Yeah, if anyone's having trouble sleeping, you can do one of two things. You can either go and buy yourself a Q-Link, which is probably going to ruin my mic now, I do apologise. So don't forget, get your Q-Links from the affiliate links. They really do work, they generally do. I know that people say that it... Yeah, actually, yeah, this is a weird thing. Our son has autism, has had it from birth, and we got him one of these Q-Links, and you'd think it was a coincidence if you didn't know the facts, but George has always been relatively isolated, a little bit insular, doesn't really communicate. Eye contact is definitely an issue. Most of the common traits of autism, but definitely over the last couple of weeks, since he's been wearing his Q-Link, which we've told him to wear on a daily basis, he has come down, and he's come down into this room, and he's tried telling us jokes, asking our opinions on things. Now, if you know many autistic people, you will know that autistic people generally don't tend to kind of consider other people's feelings so much, or maybe don't think about it, or don't kind of, they don't register on that kind of level that, I hate to say it, normal people would. I know that's a terrible thing to say, but it is what it is. Autistic people are kind of almost in their little bubble, both kind of physically, mentally, whatever. But since we're in the Q-Link, he has come down, and he's actually told, or been speaking to us about things, and he's gone and looked across both of us, side to side, gauging our responses to what he's saying, which for an autistic person is very, very unusual. Generally, they will look somewhere else in the room, or not directly at you, or put the attention on something else, like a cat or anything, basically. So we have definitely noticed a difference. He's even come home saying that he's enjoying work.
It was great
which
fun.
He said work was great fun. And it's like, that is very unusual. Normally we don't even know what he's been doing until we find out from someone else, because he doesn't tell us things, because he keeps it to himself.
His cousin works there.
He is elaborating a lot more, communicating a lot more. He does seem to be a little bit different. Now, whether it's just one of those things that coincidentally, because he's got a Q-Link,
and it's happened at the same sort of time. Maybe he's changed something in his lifestyle, his work habits, whatever the case may be, don't know. But all I can say is, since having the Q-Link, which he's been wearing,
in the last 2 months or so.
In the last,
he's had it for about a month.
He's had it about a month or so, and in the last 2 to 3 weeks, there has been a definite, noticeable difference in his general kind of demeanour. I think, is that a word? Or his kind of, his interaction is definitely changed. So anyway, I'm going to get off of my my high horse now, but actually I really did want to share that with you. I am going to probably do another video on that related to the Q-Link, because I think it's really important that just give it a try. You may think it's all kind of hippie shit or mind over matter or whatever, but for an autistic person wearing a Q-Link to be noticeably different, that means to me that possibly there is something else going on. Whether it's the Q-Link or not, I don't know. I've got no scientific way of proving it one way or the other. All I can...
With all the stress of social distancing and stuff.
Yeah, we've got all the stuff at the moment, social distancing, which has, to him, it's been a very confusing time, especially going to work with the masks and all that kind of stuff, and communication, having to concentrate on people's mouths where possible, obviously because of the social distancing and all that stuff. But he actually seems to be thriving in it. So whatever it is, I don't care what it is, but he's got a Q-Link. Check them out if you haven't already. They do sales every now and then. I will be completely honest, I do have an affiliate link on them, and I do make a small commission on them if you keep it. That's the beauty of it. You can try it. If you don't like it, or you don't think it works for you, or you don't believe in it, just send it back. I don't get a penny. So I've got nothing, I've got no investments in the company, I've got no vested interests. I only get a commission if you keep it after 90 days. So that is basically, I'm putting it all out there. Being completely honest, we do make a very small commission on it, but if you don't keep it, I get nothing. And I'm...
we sleep like
babies. We sleep really well now. George has definitely changed. Angel, I'm not too sure.
She don't wear it that often.
Yeah, she seems to not wear it very often. She keeps on forgetting to put it on because she has to take it off for work. But anyway, Skystalker said he did actually purchase one. The jury is out with an opinion. Okay. Yeah, and don't forget as well, Dave Burns, or Achea Shadow, as he's otherwise known, when he puts his ladies' clothes on, you can join him on twitch.tv, Achea Shadow, for the after show, which starts at 11 PM. It is a adults rated entertainment venue, stream, whatever you want to call it. So 18 plus only, please, because there is adult language and rude stuff. But feel free to come and join us. Ghost Adder's just put a link in there. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I've rabbished on as long as I can, and Dave's now got a quarter of an hour to set up for the stream. So in between, if you want to, join us on our Discord. We'll be in there chatting, or just log into Dave's Twitch. I think we can start chatting already. I'm not too sure. Maybe, maybe not. Anyway, thanks everyone for the super chats. Thanks for being here, listening to me whittering on. Hopefully I haven't bored you all to death, and if you have fallen asleep, now's probably a good time to wake up, get your ass to bed. So on that bombshell, thank you all for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Catch you later.